We're going to spend about the next 45 minutes in a dialogue about public safety in Midtown and our city. We are grateful to be joined by our Atlanta Police Chief Darren Schierbaum, and also joined by our relatively new Zone 5 Commander, Major Brian Schiffbauer. And so I'm going to pass this over to our Director of Public Safety, Marcus Neville, in just a second. When you registered for this webinar, you were asked to write down questions, and as much as possible, we're going to structure the dialogue this afternoon around those questions to get those questions answered. You can also put questions in the chat, and as time allows, we'll get to those during this first 45 minutes. I would also note that in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you ought to see something that's called handouts. And there are two documents in there. One document is a backgrounder on the Midtown Blue program, which shouldn't be any new news to any of you, but if anybody has any questions on that, that's where you'll find that. And the second document is a public safety summary that is final as of today. We're calling this the Midsummer Edition. It's really intended to give you facts. We do these every other month, and we've made this document available to you. Please read it. Please use it. Please forward it to people that you know that are in your network that are interested in these issues. I think as Marcus is going to cover, you'll be struck by a few things. Number one, violent crime remains very rare in Midtown and is down a lot year over year. The overwhelming amount of crime that happens in Midtown is property crime. 8 in 10 of those involve vehicles, and both of those are down a lot this year as well. So up on the screen, you're seeing sort of a summary of this document that's in the documents or a bar of your webinar. So please do take a look at this. Marcus is going to cover some of this information, but you'll have it to take away as well. And lastly, if you've got any questions related to public safety that we're not able to get to in today's webinar in 45 minutes, you can email those to us at info@midtownatl.com, info@midtownatl.com, and we will respond back to your questions individually and make sure that you get an answer to them. So with that, Marcus, take us away, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. First, let me say thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you again to Chief Schierbaum and Major Schiffbauer. We appreciate your time. As we get ready to dive into a crime summary, a public safety summary, an update for our area, let me make sure that everyone that's on here understands what Midtown Blue is. As Kevin mentioned, everyone probably knows, so I'll do a real short version. Basically, we are supplemental public safety. We supplement what APD, Georgia Tech, Emory, MARTA Police Department does. We work closely with all our private property managers, private property managers, commercial and residential, as well as the directors of security. So together we all cooperate and collaborate on everything that we do to make the district safer. Our focus is always on the right of way. So we're the sidewalk and we're the roadway. But again, as we partner with private properties, we go on, we take care of issues, we help them bolster their security for a time while they bridge the gap to get the security they need. We do assessments in parking decks. We help them with everything they need to enhance their security, to make it a safer place for all those who live, work, and play here. We have a civilian staff of public safety officers, 13 strong, includes a lieutenant, 2 sergeants, 10 officers, and then 2 dispatchers. They are basically the eyes and ears or force multiplier for the APD. So they're actually out there fighting crime, looking for quality of life issues, looking for people breaking into cars, and then allowing APD to come in, cordon off the area, and arrest those who are doing that. We continually try to have 2 Atlanta Police Department officers patrolling our area at all times. Our area is 1.2 square miles. That is smaller than the, I think, 14 miles for the zone, and then 130 miles for the city of Atlanta. That's on your update or summary that's out there. And so we function inside that area to try to give the supplemental public safety. Combined, our public safety officers and Atlanta Police Department patrolmen that work just for us outside the on-duty officers here in our area add 750 hours of patrolling to make you guys safer, to enhance the area and to combat the crime that occurs in our area. We have a robust camera or surveillance system of over 150 camera views. And as one of my questions will gear toward to give the chief an opportunity to talk about Connect Atlanta, or our enhanced surveillance system throughout the city. We joined the FUSIS or Connect Atlanta program. And because we're public safety partners, that gave us an additional 90 camera views in and around our area, so we can see 1 or 2 blocks outside of our area and anticipate what's coming, follow what's occurring, and help prevent and solve the crimes that occur in our area. We have a robust homeless outreach program. Since 2018, we started it. Over 30 people have, gone off the street or gone to jobs, gotten substantial assistance from the Midtown Blue public safety officers. Building off those basic relationships that they formed, we decided we needed to go a little bit further. We saw the need for an in-town collaborative ministries organization to come in and assist us. So we funded a full-time case manager to work with us and our public safety officers with the homeless in our area. And that led to, so far, 40 people being on their caseload, 30 people already being on the list to receive housing as soon as it's available from Partners from Home in the city of Atlanta. And then lastly, as I mentioned to begin with, we rely completely on the partnerships we have with our law enforcement partners and with our private property managers, security directors, things of that nature. As Kevin mentioned, we'll give a brief overview of what's occurring in our area right now. As we look at crime in general, we took the opportunity in 2020, 2021 to look at a study that basically showed the safety of Atlanta as far as facts and numbers are concerned. Since 1990, the last 31 years, violent crime in Atlanta has gone down 77%. That's hard for people to believe because we've also increased by at least 25% in our population. So as the population goes up, we're 77% down on violent crime. And then the MID specifically, our area this year over year last year, are 19% decrease in violent crime. So we're seeing a big change in what's going on and occurring in our area. Property crime in that same study since 1990, the last 31 years approximately, there's been a 70% decrease in property crime. Those numbers blow me away every time I look at them. I actually pulled all of the reports to confirm all this myself and went through it. To me, it's unbelievable. When you look at property crime, we're down 24% in the MID compared to last year. And so I won't go into that because that will steal some of the thunder as we talk to the APD guys who are working with us to combat that. As Kevin mentioned, we have our newest and relatively new, several months now, major for our area. Major Schierbaum comes to us with a plethora of experience throughout Atlanta. He's joined the department in '99 and actually started as a patrolman in Zone 5. He's worked narcotics, special victims units, CID. Eventually, he was the commander of the mounted patrol, so where he rode the horse around and everyone loved him and got to see him there. And he's worked in various zones throughout Atlanta during his time. He came back as lieutenant to Zone 5 in 2012 and eventually became major, and now we're lucky enough to have him here. He has done a great job. We have a great partnership. We continuously are in communication on how to combat what's going on and going back and forth with resources to maximize the efficiency of what we're trying to do here in the MID as well as the zone. So with that, let me pass it to Major Schierbaum.
All right, good evening, Midtown Improvement District. I am Major Schierbaum, your Zone 5 commander. Look, I'm very excited to be here this evening, very excited to be back in Zone 5. Like Marcus mentioned, this is my third time back in Zone 5. When I got the call that said that I was leaving Internal Affairs and coming to Zone 5, I couldn't have had a bigger smile on my face. I've got some big shoes to fill, taking Deputy Chief Span's spot at this time, and then also following in our interim police chief's shoes, which is he's just to the right of me on the screen. But so no pressure there, but we're going to be okay. Look, things are going really, really well in Midtown. So as Marcus said, I was on the mounted patrol. That was probably my favorite position on this police department, to command the mounted patrol. Just because there were two things that went along with that: crime fighting and community. And what a great way to police with an 1,800-pound animal as your partner. So when I was the commander of the Mounted Patrol, we took the crime fighting to a different a step up. So we were actually stopping suspicious people. We were conducting field interview files. My guys even caught a bank robber on horseback. So talk about your Old West movies. How neat was that? So I was very proud of them. But the most important piece of the Mounted Patrol was the community engagement and the people that we reached out to, and more importantly, the children that we reached out to. That's what was important. So that was my most favorite time. So I was assigned to Zone 5 on April 14th of this year. My top priority as the commander here is crime fighting, crime reduction. Okay. So I want to keep the residents, workers, visitors, everyone of the Midtown Improvement District and throughout Zone 5 the safest possible in the city. And the crime reduction is going to go along with that. When I talk about crime reduction, so the challenges that we face in Zone 5 with the Midtown Improvement District are going to be your car break-ins and your auto thefts. It's simple. We need to take valuables out of our vehicles. We need to remove the guns from our vehicles. That is so important. We're putting weapons in these criminals' hands, so we need to stop doing that. So it's important for you to take this back to your businesses, your buildings, residents yourself, share it with friends, put it out as much as possible. That's the one thing that my assistant commander, Captain Clay, I know you all know Captain Clay, that's the one thing that we preach and preach and preach is the clean car campaign. It's so important to keep our vehicles clean, okay? And the next thing is going to be the vehicles that are left running on the side of the road. This can be attributed to your Uber Eats drivers, and I'm not picking on anybody. It's just, these are the facts, okay? They're going into the restaurants and the establishments to pick up the food. They're leaving their car running. It takes a split second. We've seen the videos. We've seen the big cameras, and it takes a second, and the criminals get in the vehicle and they're gone. And this also goes back to us as residents, workers, and our visitors parking along the side of the road, running in, getting takeout, and coming back out. So we just have to be a little bit smarter in our daily activities, and that goes for all of us. I'm just as guilty as everybody else with leaving stuff in the car, and I catch myself, smack myself on the hand, put it in the trunk, do whatever I have to do, and we go from there. So I'm not going to take up too much more time. I know Chief Schierbaum has a lot that he wants to talk about. I hope I get to throw some things in there as well. But I also want to tout the relationship that we've been able to keep with Midtown Blue. Marcus Neville and I, we go above and beyond working with the different businesses and buildings and people within the MID to make sure they're in compliance with their properties and trying to bring this crime down. So we have a great relationship. Things are going great. Thank you very much. And again, I'm very, very happy to be back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Major. We appreciate you. As we look to introduce the chief, there's a lot that can be said. He was our major for quite a while. We developed a great relationship with him, working with Midtown Blue, Midtown Alliance, and specifically the community. He was a community advocate, working with them on a daily basis, going to all the meetings, working with all those in our area, and did a great job while he was here. So much so, it's been recognized and noticed, and he's gone straight up the ranks, just like the major did, building through the ranks. He started with the department over 20 years ago and has worked hard to get where he's at. He actually also started as a patrolman here in Zone 5. And as he worked and did all kinds of different things across the city in different zones, he worked plain clothes, he worked HOPE, working with the crisis intervention team, basically assisting the homeless in the area. And as he worked through various parts, he came back to us eventually as a sergeant and became a major of the zone back in 2017. And the reason I'm bringing up 2017, that's the same year I came. And I've got to work with him hand in hand as he handled and not only did everything that Zone 5 requires, which is the busiest zone by far, the most calls, the densest, it also entailed him working the college football national championship, I think his second year. I think he had to go to the MLS Cup, the Major League Soccer, and then he also had to take care of the Super Bowl. So he had a plethora of huge events on top of the normal duties that come with working here, and you did a great job. As we turn it over to our chief for Atlanta Police Department tonight, we want to give him the floor, let him cover what's going on, trends, issues, things that we need to know as Atlanta, as Zone 5, and as the MID. Chief?
Thank you, Marcus. Good evening, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here. I come to you, of course, as your interim chief, but also as your neighbor. I love living in Midtown. I wouldn't live in any other neighborhood in the city. So thank you for this invitation tonight as we talk about the successes we're seeing and also the challenges that remain as we work to have the safest city in the country from every one of our 245 neighborhoods that we have. I always want to start by thanking the Midtown Improvement District as well as Midtown Blue. We are fortunate. Major Schierbaum has learned this now. We have a number of strong partners in the Zone 5 space, in the downtown area, in the Midtown area. We're able to really work collaboratively to have the best neighborhoods that we can in the area. So thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Marcus, for your leadership and working with us, not just in these town halls, but weekly and daily as we work for the safety of our neighborhoods. And I also just want to bring you greetings on all of the men and women that serve you on the Atlanta Police Department, from our professional staff and our crime scene technicians, our 911 operators, to the men and women who now are patrolling the streets of Midtown, our investigators. Just bring you greetings. They take great pride in serving you, and I want to do my best to represent them tonight on this call. A few things I want to go through to reemphasize what Marcus as well as the major has spoken to is crime trends this year. We will always see citywide an uptick in crime during the summer months. This year it's slightly under where it was last year on the uptick. We've seen some improvements in our 28-day numbers, and certainly seeing those in the Midtown area, in the Midtown Improvement District. But you know, as we look at crime in the city, and we follow 9 main categories that really define when we feel safe and what safety looks like in our city. When we look at those, the #1 crime is related to vehicles, and it's already been mentioned. So if you look at the entirety of the city, 49.8% of crime in Atlanta is either a car being broken into or a car being stolen. Many of those cars, we find that some weeks, 80% of the cars, when they're stolen in the city, were running at the time of the theft or had the keys in them. And that becomes more pronounced when you move to Zone 5, because that's 50% of the crime citywide. But when you come to Zone 5 so far this year, 64% of the crime in Zone 5, all of our neighborhoods, was either a vehicle being broken into or a vehicle being stolen. And so when we do our clean car campaign and we speak about being mindful of the car running, we do that intentionally because it is the #1 crime category in the city. And when individuals look at the crime numbers and may feel less safe or wonder about their neighborhood, it will go back to 2 crimes that are largely preventable. So we ask that you keep helping us message in those areas and motivate around those individuals. Keep cars clean, don't leave them running as you're out and about. Now, as it relates to violent crime in the city, and you will hear me speak on this often, particularly around homicides and aggravated assaults. Right now, we're about 6% over in our homicides where we were this time last year. The one area that we continue to see the largest number of homicides is escalating disputes. Individuals that get into fights over relationship issues, perceived or actual indiscretion in a relationship, unpaid bills. We saw tragically in our city a homicide that occurred because an order at a restaurant was filled improperly and led to gunfire in the city. Those are very, very difficult for us as a police department to be able to manage, because we can't be in every human interaction. We can't be in every living room, and we certainly can't be in every restaurant. And so to again speak to the fact that as a city to have the discourse to de-escalate wherever we are, and to be able to, as family members, as friends, to be able to calm individuals down who you have a very close relationship to when you may be seeing a situation get out of hand, and know that a firearm is in ready close proximity. But there are areas that we as a police department can impact. And the numbers this year are telling us we are impacting. And that is homicides and aggravated assaults related to armed robberies, related to gun activities, gang activities. Those are the next 2. You have to drop way down below escalating dispute to determine what is the next highest motivator of homicides in our city, and it's armed robbery. And the next one after that is gang activity. This department is focusing fully on gangs, guns, and drugs to continue to fight crime in the city and continue to see the reductions that we see in Midtown. We want to see that throughout the city. We recently made an adjustment. We do have a gangs unit. We continue to have a gangs unit guiding our expertise in that area. But we are currently training all investigators, over 200 investigators of the Atlanta Police Department, on the gang statute to be able to bring the gang statute when they see it's relevant, because gangs are responsible for car break-ins in Midtown, and gangs are responsible for a certain percentage of the car thefts in Midtown. So our ability to attack those structures, to be able to arrest those individuals, will have an impact throughout the city, including the neighborhood that I reside in. And if you recall, about a month and a half ago, the district attorney of this county announced a wide-ranging indictment of the YSL gang. Once those arrests were made and this department was out all across the city and the region arresting those individuals, you know, crime in this city dropped 17% the very next week because of those indictments, because of the connection of gangs back to property crimes. And the challenge we have is gangs back to property crime is because property crimes is how many of the gangs and criminal organizations obtain the guns that they may need for their criminal enterprise. Guns being stolen from cars is a challenge for us. And Zone 5 does have the distinction of being the top zone in the city where guns are taken from cars. And we see this on video. We see this as we see car break-ins occur. Individuals will break a window, search the glove box, search the console underneath the seat, and move on to the next car if a gun is not there because guns are so prevalent. We require the officers of our department, if you're going to carry a weapon in your car, to have those on a lockbox. And those lock boxes can be purchased with a small amount of investment. We encourage everyone on this call, if you are going to carry a weapon in your vehicle, make sure it's locked up. We do not want to be an individual that has your weapon used in a crime later on. And as we continue to fight around gangs, guns, and drugs, I ask you follow us on social media, because you will see consistently, weekly, week after week, where you see this department attacking the drug trade that pushes violent crime in the city, attacking the gangs and the gun proliferation that drives violent crime in the city. Your police department is working very hard to do the dangerous and the difficult on your behalf to disrupt those violent crime trends. And you have our commitment that we're going to continue to do that. And look closely on those videos. How many times do you see officers that wear this uniform for you and carry out their oath for you, making arrest of individuals that have not one, but multiple firearms in their immediate reach when our officers take them in custody? You see one of those videos when we're making an arrest on a stolen vehicle, the perpetrator opens the door and a rifle falls to the ground that perpetrator had access to. You see another one 2 weeks ago where we're making an arrest. An individual not had one, not two, but three firearms within his reach at the time of that arrest. That shows the skill of this police department and the restraint our officers use over and over and over again to be able to take the dangers off the street. Now, also repeat offenders. Now, I'm sure you already heard Major Schierbaum speak of repeat offenders, as I did when I was your zone commander. We continue to see that as a challenge on the Atlanta Police Department. There are 5 components of the criminal justice system. There are those that say what will be illegal in our communities and what will be illegal. There is that entity, which is the Atlanta Police Department, charged with enforcing those laws. Then there are prosecutors that prosecute, judges that will determine bail, sentencing, restrictions upon release, and then those entities that will track those that are out on whatever level of supervised release there may be. I need your help in the remaining portions of the criminal justice system. We are fortunate that we have a district attorney that is prosecuting. She's prosecuting smartly and she's prosecuting aggressively. And now we need your assistance in the courtroom. You will notice recently that CourtWatch was returned into the landscape of the criminal justice system. That is because this department repeatedly arrests the same individuals over and over and over. Not because we're not policing smartly and not because the district attorney isn't prosecuting smartly, but because the time on the bench to determine is there treatment involved, which we are not a lock them up and throw away the key police department. We want treatment where treatment is appropriate, and we want programming where programming is right for the community and right for the offender. But I want to speak for a minute on those egregious over and over offenders. We all know Tiffany Hendricks. Tiffany Hendricks has been arrested over 100 times by the Atlanta Police Department. 76 of those times were either a felony arrest or a misdemeanor arrest. And he's been a convicted felon 4 times. But yet again, on May 1st of this year, we arrested him for burglaries as he was targeting small mom and pop businesses in the Zone 5 area. Think about that, 76 misdemeanor or felony arrests. But that's not the worst one this year. We also had Resman O'Hara, who had 77 previous arrests, 12 felony convictions, which we arrested on Peachtree Street, February the 11th, for stabbing someone and committing an armed robbery. But that's not the worst. We also arrested Calvin Hartman, 15 felony convictions, 45 arrests, 15 felony convictions. It is not easy to get a felony conviction. That was arrested in Midtown, dealing drugs with a firearm, and you will be happy to know when we attracted the attention of the Atlanta Police Department, he was driving a scooter on the sidewalk that he should not be doing. But when we make those arrests, and oftentimes there are weapons involved, it is very demoralizing and frustrating for this department to have that individual quickly released with no or little bond and quickly released with no meaningful sentencing or oversight when they are released from the courtroom. Now, we are seeing an improvement. I will say that over the last couple months, I have been seeing bonds being set higher and individuals being held with no bond that we had not previously seen early in the year. So I do appreciate the community speaking up for smart bonds and the community speaking up for smart sentencing. But we need you to continue. We need you to be part of CourtWatch, whether that's through the Midtown Improvement District or the M&A. We need you part of CourtWatch to be able to hold the criminal justice system accountable for the sentencing, not to release an individual back into the neighborhood to be released for the 77th time, the 78th time, or to place our neighborhood in jeopardy. And cameras are key to how we're making these arrests repeatedly. Cameras are key. And we're seeing, and just last week, we had a cars being broken into at 250 10th Street. The officer arriving on the scene, the citizen was able to show him great video of the individuals that had just broken the cars. He broadcast that out throughout the zone. Officers responding encountered those individuals right at the intersection of 10th and Peachtree. And a number of foot chases ensued throughout the parking decks, throughout the street, until we were able to get those individuals into custody that had been breaking into the cars just down the street. If it were not for those cameras, we could not have acted so decisively to make those arrests. We ask everyone to register for Connect Atlanta. Connect Atlanta, if you're a business owner, we would love for you to integrate your cameras so we can actually view the cameras as we respond to the scene, view the cameras from a virtual patrol from our desk, from our desk officers or the officers on the MBT. By you integrating your cameras, you're able to actually add another officer on patrol in the area. If you're a resident, register your cameras. Let us know you have a camera in the area. And if we have a crime we're investigating, we will send you an email so you can easily look for us. It's an honorary deputation as an investigator, that we want you to help us look for an individual that may be stealing packages, maybe breaking the cars. He potentially could be committing robberies. And we ask that you look and provide us back what you're seeing. We have used that time and time again to make good quality arrests that cannot be refuted in a courtroom and assist to ensure that we do have good bonds and we have meaningful sentencing. But we also find it to find lost children, as well as wandering adults that are at-risk adults that have wandered away. Your cameras are important to us. The safeguards are in place to ensure they can't be abused, but you help join us as a police department that is working closely with Midtown Blue, closely with Georgia Tech Police Department, closely with MARTA Police Department to fight crime in the area and make this great neighborhood that we want to live in and recreate in and come to work in. A couple more things before we open up for questions, Marcus, if I may. I just spoke about various acts that you've seen on our social media of our police officers, arresting offenders in very stressful situations who are highly armed. Our 911 center, our 911 dispatchers helping an individual get on top of the roof of their car during a flood to save their lives. You've also seen us looking for an Alzheimer's patient, 73 years old, that wanders in the downtown neighborhood that goes missing at 12:30 in the morning. And we use the camera network of the city to be able to track her down after she gets on a MARTA bus to return her to the niece. You see our SWAT officers administering CPR while they're on patrol when they're flagged down of an unresponsive infant, reviving that infant. And you've seen us deliver a baby last month in this city, a lieutenant of our morning watch. Now, your good major knows how to ride a horse. I'm sure he could, I know he could deliver a baby right now if he were called upon to do so. He can take individuals into custody. Last year, we responded to over 8,000 mental health calls in this city, less than 1% requiring an arrest and less than 1% requiring any level of force necessary to bring about a safe resolution of that call. The uniform doesn't bring about those skills. The uniform doesn't make us proficient in life-saving skills, arresting skills, any of those that I just described. What does is training, repetitive, realistic training over and over and over again to keep us the best in the business, the most skilled. Every year we're acquiring new tactics and new techniques that are new to the profession, that we ensure that when we protect your street, protect your neighborhood, we're doing it in the most proficient manner possible. We are in the need of a quality training center to ensure we stay competitive, to keep our officers and to recruit our officers. Right now, we're in the early stages of building a new 85-acre joint fire and police training center. Up until just last year, we were working out of an outdated old elementary school where we no longer could use the showers, we could no longer drink the water, there were more roaches in the hallways than there were recruits. That was condemned, we moved out, we're now being housed temporarily thanks to Metropolitan State College. The Atlanta Fire Rescue is in the same situation. We are using training assets that for us are an hour outside of the city. Think of that. We are sending our officers an hour outside of the city to the Georgia Public Safety Training Center to be able to do certain training they're required to do to drive their patrol cars safely. This time next year, we will be on the eve of opening a quality state-of-the-art training center. And so we ask that we thank you for your support. We thank you for a month ago, you voted yes, yes, yes on the tax bonds of this city to build a new Zone 4 precinct, a new 911 center, and to fund the Public Safety Training Center. Training is vital to what we do. Training brings about safe outcomes. It reduces the need to use force. It elevates our interactions with the citizenry. It builds the public trust. If we're not training, then we're not serving you properly. And so the need for the Public Safety Training Center is vital to Midtown. For every time you dial 911 in the year 23 and beyond, the quality of the training for your officers is going to be key to that. And finally, before I open it up to questions, I do want to speak to our efforts to grow the Atlanta Police Department. We are very fortunate that right now that the mayor is fully committed to, last month or last budget year in June rather, announced a retention bonus for the Atlanta Police Department. That if our officers will stay with this department for the next 18 months, as he lays out his strategy of support for public safety, of a $4,000 retention bonus. Do you know in 1 week, over 90% of this department, the eligible members of this department, signed up for that retention bonus because they see the support of the administration, they see the support of due process. That was very, very encouraging for us, and that will remain as we work to get the rest on. We currently have 147 recruits in training at various phases of the Atlanta Police Department. As we work to leverage our size of the police department, the diversity of the neighborhoods, to ensure that we are recruiting around the state and around the country to bring on new officers. So when you see an Atlanta police officer, please tell them thank you for serving in this city, because everyone else wants to hire them. Everyone else is trying to ask them to come to work for them with a number of appeals of signing on bonuses. But what they can't provide is the diversity of this police department, the diversity of our neighborhoods, and next year a state-of-the-art 85-acre training center. And I'm very encouraged that for the first time in my career, our mayor is launching a take-home car program, where this year we will start providing to officers who reside in the city of Atlanta, officers who answer 911 in the city of Atlanta, the first rollout of cars for them to be able to take home, which is what our competition in the neighboring jurisdictions often uses to try to lure officers away. So we appreciate the support that we're receiving from the mayor in pay raises and retention bonuses, and pushing a state-of-the-art training facility, and now a take-home car program. So you start seeing more patrol cars parked in driveways of the city, parked in parking decks of this city. So thank an Atlanta police officer. You have the best working for you. You have the brightest working for you. We want to work to keep them and ensure if they remain constitutional, they retain committed and competent and compassionate, that we will back them as long as they're serving our city in that means. So Marcus, I'm open for any questions that we may have tonight that you and Kevin may have, or from the group that's joining us, so we can have a good conversation this evening.
Thank you, Chief, and that was a good overview. If you can, knowing all that and looking at what you have in front of you, the department, the growth, what you guys are tackling, if you're sitting here 1 year from now, what is it you'd like to say that you guys accomplished?
Here's what I'd like to see 1 year from now. It'd be nice if we were out of business, right? That the criminals all went away and we no longer needed an Atlanta Police Department. We'll go work for Fire Chief Smith. But what I think where we gauge our successes is, are we growing our partnerships in the neighborhood? Have we grown the number of neighborhood watches? Have we grown the number of integrations to connect Atlanta? Are we growing CourtWatch? Because it lets us know that we have strong partnerships in the neighborhood. A year from now, have we grown the police department, and how have we grown the number of officers that we have? If we're doing 10 things to grow the Atlanta Police Department, 6 of them have to be about retaining the officers that we have. and we retain the officers that we have by providing them clean precincts to work out of, proper training facilities, giving them cars to drive, and ensuring that they have right to due process during their time as police officers. And then I think we look at, do we have the reduction in the areas we're looking at? Because we're always looking to fight crime smartly. And I think, are we growing our youth initiatives? And do we have more partnerships joining us in our POW centers and in the summer youth programs? We were just looking today that the drop in youth arrests that we had this summer compared to last summer, we can see that even though our adult arrests are up across the city, that our youth arrests were actually down because we saw a drop in persons actually committing. Now, we still had juveniles breaking into cars. I mean, it's a number of occurrences that were egregious, but overall, we actually saw that reduction. That is a movement in the right direction. When we have that holistic approach, that we are being provided resources on the front end, so there is not an engagement by the Atlanta Police Department with a person in a mental health crisis or a juvenile committing the crime. That's where I look a year from now to see, are we moving in the right direction?
Okay. As we look at, and you've already discussed homicides in general, and you talked about a 6% increase. We had a larger increase in the zone area for homicides. We had 2 in the MID. Both of those were targeted robberies. One occurred in a vehicle, and both are solved with arrests. Is there anything else we need to know, or anything else we can do as a community? Understanding that a lot of them, as you mentioned, are incidents where something escalates and gets out of hand, and we all need to be good neighbors and watch for things of that nature. Anything else we need to know?
Well, the couple things about the high solvability rate. The camera network was a key contributor to that. The cameras that the improvement district, that the MID created in place, were key to those investigations. Cameras that private property owners had functioning, quality systems that they made readily available to the police department were vital to those. The other side of that was we had a lot of cooperation from the community. And so we strive to retain the community trust, so individuals will speak to our investigators, so we make those arrests very quickly in the area they have. But escalating disputes continue to be the #1 area, and we can't not be the entity, can't be, there's not enough of us, nor there should be that many officers in living rooms in every business to ask everyone to please show restraint if it's a heated thing. If the friend that you're with is in a heated conversation, speak with them, pull them out. We want to emphasize that because it's the one area we can't be effective at as a police department.
Okay. You mentioned the cameras and the camera system we have in the MID as well as throughout the city, and now Connect Atlanta, and we're pushing that hard in our area, trying to get companies to sign up and parking decks to join, different things to help enhance the surveillance system. We're seeing that it's very useful for us. We know it is for APD. Is there anything else to be able to push it to all the community members, a success story? I know I've heard several, but I don't want to steal any thunder, and things you may be familiar with that already through Connect Atlanta and Fusus, things we have seen solved.
There are a number, and go to our social media again, because we have them there. But I was one the other day. I was out on patrol, and I heard a zone next door actually arrest an individual who had just committed a burglary, a residential burglary. And so I went to the scene just to check on the officers, congratulate them on the arrest. And I asked how the arrest came about so quickly. And the officer told me that as he was responding to the call, he saw when the 911 comment field that the citizen had video of the burglars who had just burglarized his home. And so the officer said, well, if you don't mind, I'm sending you a link. Send that to me. I want to be able to look at it. And it came straight to the officer's MDT, the mobile data terminal, which is the computer in the car. And he started looking at the 2 individuals that had just burglarized the individual's home. Guess who he passed, Marcus, as he drove to the call? The burglars, right? The burglars he just saw on the video. And so that is technology. That is the 21st century that we want to leverage. And we certainly understand community concern and individuals' concern about privacy. And that's why registering your cameras have a complete distinction between integrating your cameras. And I would put the distinction this way: if you're making money in this city by asking people to buy food, buy something in your building, or you're selling them parking, I think you have a duty and obligation to integrate your cameras, because then it helps elevate the area that you're asking people to come to. But if you're a resident like me and you live in the city, we just ask that you register your camera. Let us know that you're available. And we have seen that solve car break-ins. We've seen that solve individuals shooting weapons, where we're able to get on the camera system as respond to report of shots fired, and the officer rolls the camera back and actually sees the person firing the weapon and then where he hides the weapon. So when the officer arrives, he's informed, he's in control of the situation, he's able to make the arrest smartly. Those are the examples we can give over and over again. And then we want to let you know we were very aware of any concerns around privacy, and that the safeguards are in place to make sure those concerns are met while you're still able to be, you know, they used to say all the time back in the day, because we've been in the profession for a while, Marcus and Major, that the best security system you could have was a nosy neighbor. Remember that? Someone that's home during the daytime, that's looking out the blinds. If they see something that doesn't right, they're calling 911. They're taking note of the vehicle. Well, this is better than a nosy neighbor, because it's not pointing at your house, but it's something you have that you're contributing to the neighborhood. And what will happen if we're doing an investigation, the detective is going to go to your neighborhood, he's going to draw a circle around, and it's going to tell him who within that circle has a camera that they're willing to say, I will look at the camera for you during this time frame and whatever you're looking for. And that's how you get an email from us, and then you're able to provide it in that way. So the safeguards are there, and it just allows you to be a strong partner with us without having to do the dangerous part of our job.
That sounds good. As we look at the last few minutes, and we have several questions about homelessness and loud vehicles and parking on Peachtree Street and other lanes of traffic and blocking up traffic. The question that comes over and over again, and we used to have to deal with it a lot, but it's becoming prevalent again, are the what they call street racers, even though a lot of times it's not that, it's loud mufflers. And I know there was a huge approach by you guys. You guys did a lot of different, APD basically stepped up the game and how they would observe and how they would react and work with GSP. If you will, tell us what all is happening now with that and what we can do to help.
Absolutely. I'm going to hold up a picture here. I don't know if you can see it or not. So this is a street racing car which we took on 14th Street, just outside of the improvement district last month. And so what we have done, we've done a number of things, because as we see the group move in the region, you'll notice they'll be pushed out of Atlanta. They will go to North Fulton, where they will do the street takeovers, and they will be pushed out of North Fulton, and they will be up in Gwinnett. We've really started a region-wide intelligence network with the DeKalb County, Gwinnett County, the jurisdictions of North Fulton County, the Georgia State Patrol have been strong partners to ensure that we're sharing information more quickly when we know these groups will be on the move, when they may be coming into the city or elsewhere in the region. The Georgia State Patrol has also been very helpful, as has the Fulton County Sheriff's Department, to join with us on weekends and other days when we have joint task forces, joint details operating in the area that we know street racers may likely show up, so we're able to get there quickly. And as we follow up, as we disrupt them, make arrest on scene, we're also using the camera network, the license plate readers, the intelligence network I just described, to secure arrest warrants and go arrest individuals at their place of employment, at their home, when we can show a judge that they're committing offenses in the city. But what we've also done is made that a priority 911 call, which means it's now no longer held until available car is available. It is a broadcast over the air, and everyone, from including the rank of the chief, the intern chief down, if you are in the area and we broadcast a street racing call, you will respond. And I will tell you, lieutenants and sergeants of Zone 5, I've seen on the daily overnight reports, have been responding, making arrests. This arrest here was done by our night commander, who was a captain, who was the closest to the call when the call came up of the car laying drag in the street. So it is the expectation of the Atlanta Police Department that everyone who has arrest powers when a street racing call comes up is dispatched to the scene. What we've been able to do is to shrink the average dispatch time from the time that the 911 call hits the center till it's being broadcast over the air to 41 seconds. Now, keep this in mind. If Marcus, if you and Kevin were to decide that you wanted to be notorious and to be able to use a backdrop of the improvement district to get your 10 seconds of fame, that's all it takes, right? Is for Kevin to stand on the sidewalk with a camera, with a phone, for Marcus, you to be in your hot rod and just spin around, because if you notice on many of the ATL scoop videos, those videos are 10 seconds in length, 15 seconds in length, 30 seconds in length. So by the time most individuals can actually dial 911, the video has been shot and they're trying to leave the area before the police arrive. Now we're using our air unit to be able to quickly interdict these teams, and the air unit has been very successful in being disruptive and leading to the arrest that we've made. The camera network is also key in that as well. What we're also seeing is that the municipal court has been assigning a special prosecutor solicitor to these cases to ensure when the Atlanta Police Department, the Georgia State Patrol, the Fulton County Sheriff brings a street racing case before the courts, that they are receiving a higher level of attention, and the sentencing is such to be discouraging. But I want more cars on the back of tow trucks like I just showed you, and we want to continue to arrest the people that are street racing in the city of Atlanta, because it's dangerous and it's illegal, and we will make arrests in that area, as we have been.
Thank you so much, Chief and Major. We appreciate you joining us this evening for the public safety briefing. We look forward to having more of these in the future. We also look forward to making sure we pass out our public safety report. That is one of the attachments today, our midsummer 2022, and we'll keep producing those every other month so that everybody can see the stats and the facts and join in what we're doing. We'll be pushing CourtWatch, Connect Atlanta. Thank you guys for joining this evening. If we didn't get your question tonight, we'll be emailing you directly and trying to answer your question individually. So please let us know your questions that we didn't get answered. If we didn't and you didn't ask the question, you want to ask one anyway that's new, info@midtownatlanta.com. We'll be able to answer it for you. Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Everyone have a good night.